What's up, everybody? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. Power lines that are just kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg. I'm joined today with Jim Biggs. How you doing today, Jim?
I am peachy keen. Thank you for asking, Dan.
Awesome, awesome. It's great. This show is called Chance Encounters, and sometimes it's not so much chance. Jim and I have run into each other a number of times, but this is. Let me explain to you why you're here and what you're getting out of this. I interview commercial real estate investors in this show called Chance Encounters, and then what I do is I ask them, out of the 5 different main motivations that I've found that motivates people to get their next commercial purpose, I've narrowed it down to 5, and I say, which one's you? And then what I do is I pull out my Dan Does Deal die, and I go through the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. Then I say, which one is your core competency that you'd be most likely to contribute to in your next commercial deal. But before we get to that, the other thing that's very important for you in the audience to know, other than the fact that you should subscribe, is that you have to be able to introduce yourself effectively. So I always have my guests introduce themselves. So Jim, can you please introduce yourself for the audience, please?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I'm Jim Biggs. I currently reside in the greater Chicagoland area, and I am the founder of the GOB Network and also co-owner and founder of Jeroma Enterprises. And we deal in the commercial real estate space and have a passion for training people how to do the same thing and create generational wealth and passive income.
All right, that's a beautiful thing. All right, so let's get to the motivation piece. So I go on the doodad and I click on this and I click on that and then I hit this. We see if it appears and boom, just like magic. So here's the motivation piece. The reason why I go through motivation first is because a lot of times we'll have some inexperienced investors up here and they'll know their motivation, but they won't necessarily know their role. So I go through the motivation part first. So the first motivation that people have for getting another commercial property is because they're trying to preserve their purchasing power. And what that means is people who are independently wealthy, perhaps family offices, the way they make their ends meet is off of the cash flow that comes from the wealth that they possess. And so the issue with inflation is that that cash flow that they end up getting, it won't be enough. So they need to make more acquisitions to make sure that they're in the same financial situation today as they are 10 years from now. So that's the first reason that some people want to make some acquisitions for. The next one, it describes me much more closely. So I'm looking to trade time for wealth, as opposed to I've got this tech background, which in the big scheme of things, it's on the higher earnings side. But if you do get a high salary or wage, you're going to be paying the highest form of tax, which is income tax. And so if you don't like that, and you can pivot like I did, which is to join onto the GP team, so that way I'm being rewarded for my time and effort in the form of equity. So that's what's going through my head. The next reason is the most common one, which is fast tracking your retirement. And there are 2 things that are implied in there that I like to clarify. One of them is that if you're in your early 20s and you're saying I'm fast tracking for my retirement, I just won't believe you, because you're not even started, okay? But and also, if you know anything about the fluctuation in asset values, it's like inflation is a real thing. But the other thing that's implied in fast tracking your retirement is sort of like an end goal. So this isn't the type of person who is going to buy the entire city block like the super ambitious people. So the fast track to retirement people, maybe they want to move one day to a place with a low cost of living and wear out their days that way. But the people who want to buy their entire hometown, they're very motivated for generational wealth. Maybe they don't want their great grandchildren to have to work a day in their life, that sort of people, and they're never going to stop hustling. So they're another great member of the GP team. But the last motivation is that some people realize that they have some sector of society, or perhaps the environment or animals or something like that, that they really want to help, and they realize that accumulating wealth is the most effective way, that if you put it in your will, that you're doing the most impactful thing you can in society. So some people do that, and I call it an irrational need to help tenants, because I'm being cute. But out of those five, Jim, what best describes you? What combination of those? Or
Yeah, I would say the last two, Dan. I definitely am very keen on building generational wealth and passing on the knowledge of how to create that and how to keep it going. Uh, and always thought, for me personally, that would be a business. But as it turns out, it was something quite different, and have to. It can't always be in the form of your children. I'll just leave it at that. And the last one is, I do, because of how I grew up, I have that irrational need to help tenants.
I love it. I love it. Is there a particular group that they're like a pet project of yours?
Well, I have a passion about wanting to teach financial literacy
Hmm.
to poor people,
Hmm.
no matter what that means. No matter if it's an inner city youth or if it's a poor Appalachian hillbilly kid like I was. I want to be able to give them an example to strive for. Because most kids born into those circumstances, they don't have a role model. They don't have the knowledge of how to be more than what they were born into. And so that's a real passion for us.
Yeah, yeah, right. And there's also the fact that, as landlords, we're often unfairly vilified because people don't realize the service that we're providing, which is like keeping the place nice. That's the job of the landlord. You'd pay a maid if you had the opportunity, most people anyway. So, why doesn't it make sense to pay somebody to make sure you have a nice place to live? So, but that brings me to the roles, and that's why I like to talk about it, is to try and debunk some of those ideas. But I've got my Dan Does Deal die, and for those of you in the audience who don't really have your heads around how a commercial deal works, there are only six roles, and I'll blast through those real quick. So the first one's repositioner. That's a person who looks at a whole whack of different properties because they're looking for upside. And how are they going to know? Well, first they underwrite it. Underwriting it, that's a fancy word to mean they do the math. They find out all the numbers. They say, does this make sense? Yes or no? And as far as finding the upside goes, they have two main tools to do that. One is they can have more efficient operations. Okay, in other words, they find ways to run the business more efficiently. They stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet, and they also keep track of them. All of the operations people are also the bookkeepers, and also they're the leasing agents, which is a form of marketing, one of my fortes, and that they keep the vacancy rate low. So that's operations. There's a lot to that, but these days real estate's so hot, if that's the only tool in your tool belt, that might not be enough. So you might need to get a contractor team, some developers to fix the place up, and if it's nicer, you can charge more in rent. So that's why the repositioners will use that strategy sometimes. But if the repositioner is an out-of-towner like myself, I'm from the internet, I'm going to need a local. I need somebody who is like an hour or two away, and what their job is to do is to take and keep an eye on the operations, make sure that they're not fudging the numbers, and they're not basically not taking care of the property. The local will be able to tell, and then the contractor, they'll be keeping track that the project's getting completed in a timely manner. And that's what most people think of when they think of a commercial real estate deal, but they're forgetting the financiers. So for simplicity, that's a bank, but there are a lot of capital raisers who come on the show here, so that's also a form of financiers, a capital raiser. But you go to the bank when you have this property in mind as a repositioner, and you say, hey, this only costs me, say, $10 million. So do you want to say give me like $10 million to buy it? And they'll say, okay, let me look at the numbers, see if this makes sense. But they're going to ask, who's your sponsor? and I'm pretty sure this is the one for you, Jim. And sponsors, they're the people who have an asset similar to what's being bought here. Okay, so if Elon Musk decides that he wants to buy a 350 unit apartment complex, to get a loan, you have to have somebody in the fold who already owns a 350 unit apartment complex. There also are some liquidity requirements, so cash on hand, and then there's also there has to be a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you got all those pieces together, you've got a commercial real estate deal. So, Jim, what pieces of the puzzle there are your core competencies, or what you'd be most likely to bring to the next commercial deal that you're involved in?
Yeah, well, I'm at that point in my life that you can tell by the color of my hair that I have reached the sponsor and KP piece. For most of my adult life, I thought that I was more of the repositioner and the sweat equity and the local boots on the ground, and trying to perform a lot more of those pieces. And I suddenly woke up one day when somebody asked if I would sponsor their deal and realized that I was an older man. So, yeah, that does best describe me today.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It just makes me think. Like I'm getting some serious white action in my beard over here, and I am kind of salt and pepper over here. But maybe if I just like bleach it and then to get it whiter, then I can just start sponsoring more deals. It's like it's a total life hack, right? But other than that kind of silliness, the next question I have for you is about the buy box. So a buy box is, in other words, an ideal property. It's a property where it's easier to say yes to, or at least it's more difficult to say no to. And specifically, I'm talking about the geographic areas, the unit count, and the class. So, Jim, as far as a buy box, what's your ideal property for people to bring to you?
Well, you said one key thing for me, and I will say that, like most people, um, 2 years ago, a year ago, my buy box would have definitely been within the smile of the country, the southern United States, the southeast, the southwest, in landlord-friendly states, larger assets, 100 or more. The typical thing that almost everyone is looking for. A value add or a value add slash yield play. But that second thing that you said about a deal that you can't say no to
Mm-hmm.
really describes me today, because I love to tell people that I don't invest in deals, I invest in people. I don't have a market because I invest in people, and my market is where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a lot to do with my mission and vision statement that is tied to the GOP network. And I'm trying to help as many people as I can get into this business. And that means a lot of times that I'm sponsoring a deal in a place that I might not normally say yes to. But
Mm-hmm.
if they're part of my network and they're trying to get a deal done, I would prefer they do it in their backyard. I honestly believe there's no such thing as a bad place to do business. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's just bad deals.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're in a place like San Francisco, where you think the price per door is ridiculous and the landlord tenant laws are ridiculous, you can still find good deals, and that's evidenced by all the deals that are being done. And people that really ultra high net worth individuals and foreign nationals love to buy in places like San Francisco, New York, and Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Yeah, I remember I lived in Taiwan for 15 years, and it was always like you say that you're from Canada, and it's like they know Toronto and they know Vancouver, and that's like it, and they're not close, right? Just like New York and L.A. It's like it's just, you don't just like just hop in the car, kids. You
Right.
go, right? And it's a very big place. But so that's your buy box. And then the next important question is everybody helps each other in commercial real estate, and it's a really amazing thing. And I attribute it to because people are different sides of the puzzle, and nobody can be all of them at any time. So that's why we have to help each other out. And you were describing, it sounded like beginners are who you're better suited to help out than anybody else. Is that correct, or is there another type of person also without breaking SEC restrictions? So
Yeah.
don't don't entice investors. That's against the law, ladies
Yeah,
and
so absolutely. I do. When I started this, it was really aimed at if you go into an investment conference and the first thing they say is that congratulations for being here. That means you're really the cream de la cream. And but 80% of you are not going to join this program. I was really focusing on the 80% because I really believed that if they didn't want to get into real estate, if they weren't interested, they wouldn't have spent $100 or $300 to be there that weekend.
hmm
But you just didn't sell them on the idea that they wanted to join your program. And
hmm
so we initially wanted to help them, but we've morphed into more than that. We are helping people get into bigger deals that they don't have the net worth and liquidity to get into. Maybe they've already done 2 or 3 deals and they just need somebody with more horsepower to
hmm
get more deals done. And we're also really focused on trying to help the people that are stuck. Maybe they've done 1 deal or 2 deals and they just feel stuck and they don't know how to get out from under whatever's holding them back. And so we're really focusing hard on trying to help them too.
That's a beautiful thing. And Jim, I see on your little Zoom name there, it does say gobnetwork.com. And we met through some meetups that I found through LinkedIn. So is your website the best way to get a hold of you, or is it through LinkedIn, or what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, I would say the website is an easy place, to get in touch with me. But I am most active on the LinkedIn platform, and I'm very easy to find. If the URL is just Jim Biggs one on LinkedIn. But if you want to email me, it's really, really hard. I have one of those really long, difficult email addresses. It's jimbiggs@gmail.com.
hmm
And feel free to anyone that, if you go to my contact info, there's, a ton of information about me on LinkedIn and then easy to get in touch with.
All right, awesome. And if you in the audience, if you don't know me, I'm Dan Fredenberg. My background is in e-commerce technology. In other words, that's websites that actually receive transactions and all that kind of stuff. And I was in the lead capture, lead segmentation, and the online sales funnels themselves. But I do have something to ask from you, which is if you look under my hand over here, you'll see a red button, and it's an evil, terrible button. It says subscribe, and the only way to make it better is to click on it, because then it'll be gray, and that means that YouTube pays for these videos instead of me, and that's a lot better. So pretty pleased with sugar on top. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It just means that videos from my channel might show up in your list of suggestions, but you don't have to click on them. You've already done me a huge favor by doing that. But just like that, Jim, you've done me a tremendous favor by showing up today. Thank you so much for coming here, and it's great getting to know you a little bit better.
Well, the pleasure's all mine, Dan. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity. And I just wanted to ask you if you're giving away a free drink or free beer with a subscription.
It depends. Yeah, I think you have to come here, and but the thing is that there's a lot of communism in Canada and igloos, and it's don't tell if you come across the border, don't tell them you know me because I got this reputation because I'm not that big into maple syrup, and that's not popular up
That's
here.
a problem. Being
Right,
from So
right.
I'm subscribing, so I'm expecting my beer, and I'll even offer the same in return. Anyone that subscribes to Dan's channel, I'll give you a free beer when you're in Chicago.
All right, sounds good. All right, thanks for that, Jim. All right, take care.
Thank you.